My name is Harold, and I'm 90 years old today. I've been walking this earth for 9 decades, and I've kept a secret that most people will never know. Not because anyone told me to keep it quiet, but because once you know it, you understand why the world works the way it does. 90 years is a long time to watch a lie repeat itself. 90 years is long enough to see the same mistake made again and again by people who never think to ask the simple questions. And today, before it's too late, I want to tell you what I've learned about the soil beneath our feet, and why the most powerful secret in gardening has been hiding in plain sight all along. Let me take you back to 1954. I was just a young man then, maybe 24 years old, with calloused hands and a head full of dreams. My father owned a small farm outside of town, nothing fancy, just a few acres where we grew what we needed to survive. The soil was tired. I remember standing in that field with my father, looking at the cracked grey earth, and he said something I never forgot. He said, "Son, this ground has been fought for so long that it's forgotten how to give." Those words haunted me because I knew he was right. For 50 years, my family had been tilling, ploughing, spraying, and pushing that soil harder and harder, and every year it gave less and less. We had to buy more fertilizer, we had to spray more chemicals, we had to work harder for smaller harvests, and nobody seemed to think that was strange. But then something changed. My mother, God rest her soul, she was a woman who paid attention to nature. She would sit on the back porch in the evening, just watching the woods behind our house. And one day she said to me, "Harold, have you ever noticed that nobody farms the forest? Nobody fertilizes it, nobody sprays it, nobody plows it, and yet it grows thicker and richer every single year." She pointed at the tree line, at the leaves falling in autumn, at the branches lying on the ground, at this thick carpet of material just collecting on the forest floor year after year. She said, "If the forest can feed itself with what falls from above, why can't our fields?" I didn't have an answer then, but I became obsessed with that question. I started studying everything I could find about soil, about what farmers were doing, about what scientists were discovering. And that's when I found something that changed everything. I found references to work being done by researchers, serious people in laboratories, studying something so simple that it seemed impossible it could be the answer. They were studying what happens when you take wood chips, just simple wood chips, the kind that tree workers leave behind, and spread them thick over the soil. Not mixing them in, not burying them, just laying them on top, the way nature does it in the forest. I was skeptical at first, I won't lie to you. We'd been taught our whole lives that bare soil was healthy soil. We thought exposed earth was a sign of good farming. But I decided to try it anyway, just on a small corner of our property. In the spring of 1955, I took some wood chips from a tree crew that had just finished work in town. The man running the crew laughed at me. He asked me what I was doing, and when I said I was going to spread them on my fields, he thought I'd lost my mind. He said, "That's waste material, son. That's what we pay to have hauled away." But I loaded up a truck full anyway. I remember that day so clearly. I was out there from sunrise spreading those chips thick, maybe 5 or 6 inches deep, across an area about the size of a tennis court. My father watched from the porch, shaking his head. He said I was wasting time and space. He said nothing would grow under all that mulch. He said I was throwing away a good piece of land. And I nodded and kept spreading, because something in my bones told me that my mother was right. Something whispered that we'd been doing it wrong all along. That summer was one of the driest we'd had in years. The rain stopped in June and didn't come back until September. Our regular fields, the ones we still tilled and kept bare, they suffered terribly. The plants wilted, the yields dropped. My father was worried. I could see it in his face. But that little corner where I'd spread the wood chips, it was different. It was noticeably greener. The plants looked stronger. When the heat was worst, that section stayed cooler. When the drought was deepest, the soil under that mulch stayed moist. By the end of that growing season, something had shifted in my father's mind. When harvest came, the numbers told the story. That small mulched area produced almost 3 times what the same size section produced in the regular field. The vegetables were bigger. The plants were healthier. The soil itself looked darker, richer, more alive. I'll never forget the moment my father walked that field with me, bent down and held up a handful of that soil. It was dark brown, almost black, and it smelled alive. He didn't say much, but he looked at me and nodded. That nod meant everything. It meant he understood what we'd discovered. But here's the thing that most people don't know. Once we started doing this on a bigger scale, once we started getting results that neighbors couldn't ignore, we encountered something unexpected. We started running into resistance. Not from nature. Nature loved it. We ran into resistance from people. From people who said it looked messy. From authorities who said it didn't match local regulations. From people who simply couldn't accept that a solution could be this simple because it didn't match what they'd been taught to believe. I want to be honest with you about this part because it's important. We weren't breaking any laws in a serious way, but we were pushing against expectations. In some places, people got in real trouble for doing what we were doing. They were told their gardens looked neglected. They were threatened with fines. They were treated like they were doing something wrong when all they were doing was letting nature show them the way forward. It made me realize something profound. The best ideas, the ones that actually work, they often get opposed the most fiercely. Not because they're wrong, but because they threaten systems that are built on something else. Systems built on selling you things you don't need. Think about it for a moment. If you learn to build soil with wood chips, with something that's often free or nearly free, then you don't have to buy bags of fertilizer every spring. You don't have to buy herbicides. You don't have to buy special treatments. You become independent. You become less dependent on the system that sells you solutions. And that, my friend, is why this isn't taught. That's why you'll read gardening books written by people selling fertilizer, and they won't tell you about mulch. That's why agricultural programs focus on chemicals instead of biology. That's why your neighbors might look at your garden strange when you're doing it right. I learned something else too over those decades of experimenting. Not all wood chips are the same. This is crucial. You can't just grab any old pile of processed wood and expect it to work the same way. The best chips are the ones that come from real trees. Arborist chips, we call them. They have bark, they have leaves, they have the younger branches. They have the living parts of the tree mixed in with the dead parts. These chips break down differently. They feed the soil food web differently. They have minerals and nutrients stored in them from deep in the earth. When a tree pulls water and nutrients from deep underground, it stores some of that in its branches and leaves. When those branches are chipped and put on your soil, you're essentially bringing that fertility from the deep earth to the surface. It's like nature's own transportation system for moving minerals where they need to go. What happens under that mulch is nothing short of miraculous if you take time to understand it. The moment you lay down those chips, you're creating an environment. Fungi move in first. The white rot fungi especially. They love that fresh wood material. They work through it slowly, breaking it down, and as they do that work, they're not just releasing nutrients. They're creating the conditions for something beautiful to happen. They're helping the soil form these little crumbly pieces, these aggregates that hold water and air in perfect balance. They're building structure. They're creating life. I've spent 50 years watching this transformation happen under mulch layers. I've dug down every year or two and watched that bottom layer slowly turn into dark, rich humus. It's not fast. It takes time, but it's relentless and beautiful. And once that happens, your soil stops being this dead, inert thing that you have to force into production. It becomes alive again. It becomes a living system that wants to grow things. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You've read warnings about nitrogen. You've heard that wood chips steal nitrogen from your plants. And I want to tell you the truth about that because it's been misunderstood for too long. If you take fresh wood chips and dig them into your soil, mixing them in, then yes, there can be temporary nitrogen issues. Microbes will be breaking down that carbon-heavy material, and they'll pull nitrogen as they work. That's real. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not digging the chips in. We're laying them on top, just like nature does on the forest floor. And when the chips stay on the surface, any nitrogen effect happens only in that thin layer where the chips touch the soil. It's shallow, it's localized. Your plant roots are mostly feeding below that zone, so no. Properly applied mulch isn't stealing from your garden. It's feeding a long-term cycle that builds fertility instead of draining it. I wish I could tell you this method is perfect and easy. I wish I could say there are no challenges. But honesty matters when you're 90 years old and close to the end of your journey. There are challenges. In the first couple of years especially, slugs and snails love that cool, moist environment. Earwigs find it inviting. Your ecosystem is still adjusting, still finding balance. You might lose some seedlings to these creatures until the predators move in and establish their own balance. That's why you start small. That's why you learn as you go. That's why you pull the mulch back when planting tiny seeds that need soil contact, and you protect tender seedlings until they're strong enough. There's one big mistake I made early on that I want to warn you about. Never ever pile mulch against the trunk of a tree or the stem of a plant. The moisture gets trapped. Diseases move in, rot can set in. Always leave breathing room around the base of every plant. This is not a small thing. I learned it the hard way, losing a beautiful fruit tree to rot that could have been prevented. Leave space. Let air move. Your plants will thank you. But here's what I want you to understand at the deepest level. This method works because it works with nature instead of against it. For generations, we were taught to see soil as an enemy. We were taught to conquer it, to force it into production, to break it apart with plows and fill it with chemicals. We became dependent on machines and products and systems that always needed more money and more effort.
But soil doesn't want to be conquered. Soil wants to recover. Nature is always trying to heal. The forest floor has been showing us the pattern since the beginning of time. Cover the ground. Feed the life below. Let diversity return. Let time and biology do what no machine can truly replace. I'm 90 years old today, and I've watched a lot of change. I've seen technology come and go. I've seen methods rise and fall. But the one thing that never changes is this: nature knows how to rebuild soil better than we do. And the moment we get humble enough to follow nature's blueprint instead of fighting it, everything changes. My father learned this before he died. My mother was right all along. And I've spent a lifetime trying to prove it, first to myself, then to my neighbors, then to my children and grandchildren, and now to you. You know what's waiting for you if you understand this. Freedom. Real freedom. Freedom from the system that wants you dependent on their products. Freedom from the cycle of buying and never having enough. Freedom to grow food that's truly yours on soil that's truly alive. Freedom to leave something behind for the next generation that's actually worth something, not just money, not just possessions, but living soil, fertile ground, a place that can feed and support life for generations to come. This is what I'm thinking about now, at the end of my life. Not what I bought or what I accumulated, but what I'm leaving behind. The soil in that field where I first spread those chips in 1955. It's been under mulch ever since. 70 years. 70 years of continuous improvement. The earth there is so rich now, so alive, that it almost glows. My grandchildren grow food there now. They're teaching their children, and none of them have to buy bags of fertilizer or spray chemicals. The soil itself provides what the plants need. That's the legacy. That's what matters. So if you're listening to this, I'm asking you something. Don't wait until you're 90 to understand this. Don't wait until you're running out of time. Start now. Start small if you need to. Find some wood chips. Maybe you can get them free from a tree crew. Maybe they cost a little money. It doesn't matter. Spread them on a small corner of your garden or yard. Lay them thick, 4 to 6 inches. Let nature do the work. Watch what happens over the seasons. Keep watching, because I promise you, if you give it time, if you let the biology beneath the surface do what it's designed to do, you will see your soil change. You will see your plants respond. You will get results that make you wonder why this isn't taught in every school. I've learned so many things in 90 years. I've made mistakes. I've had failures. But this knowledge, this understanding of how to work with soil and nature, this is something I would do again exactly the same way. This is something I would choose over almost anything else I've done. Because this is about life. This is about creating abundance. This is about leaving the world a little better than you found it. This is about becoming part of the cycle that doesn't need permission or approval or products sold by companies that don't care about you. The forest doesn't ask permission to grow. The forest doesn't need permission to be beautiful and abundant. It just keeps doing what it's been doing for thousands of years, covering itself, protecting itself, feeding the life within itself. And when you finally understand that, when you finally see it with your own eyes in your own garden, something shifts inside you. You stop fighting nature. You start joining nature. And that, my friend, is when your whole gardening life changes. I won't be here forever. None of us will be. But what we know, what we've learned, what we've discovered, that can live on. That can be passed forward. That's why I'm telling you this story. That's why it matters that you hear this at whatever age you are. Whether you're 20 or 40 or 60, you have time. You have time to build something beautiful in the soil. You have time to become independent. You have time to learn what nature has been trying to teach us all along. The camera pans across a lush garden bursting with life, soil rich and dark beneath healthy plants. This is the garden you're capable of building. This is the abundance that's waiting for you. This is the legacy you can leave, not because it's complicated, but because it's simple. Simple enough that a man and a woman and their children can do it. Simple enough that it works year after year after year. Simple enough that it doesn't require anything you can't get or understand. Just wood chips, just time, just the willingness to trust nature more than you trust the system that's been selling you solutions. I'm asking you now to please subscribe to this channel. Please. Because the only way this knowledge survives is if we keep passing it forward. The only way the old wisdom lives on is if you help it spread. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with your neighbors. Share it with your children. Because we don't have time for this knowledge to be forgotten. We don't have time to wait another 70 years for someone else to rediscover what we already know. The soil needs healing now. The people need to know now. The future needs this knowledge now. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Subscribe so this channel can grow and reach more people. Because there are more secrets. There are more lessons. There are more ways that nature has been showing us the answer if we just take time to look. And I want to share them all with you while I still can, while there's still time, while it still matters. Thank you for listening to an old man's story. Thank you for caring enough to hear what I've learned. And thank you for being willing to try something different in your own garden. That's all any of us can ask, that someone will listen, someone will try, someone will see that there's a better way. Keep your soil covered and keep growing. That's what I've done for 70 years, and I've never regretted it for a moment.